Welcome to the Health Fix podcast, where health junkies get their weekly fix of tips, tools, and techniques to have limitless energy, sharp minds, and fit physiques for life. Hey, health junkies. On this episode of the Health Fix podcast, I'm interviewing Benedict Beaumont. He's a breathwork facilitator, a yoga teacher, and founder of Breathing Space. It's a membership site where you can breathe online, on demand, with some guidance. So cool. Now, this podcast is going to be a little different than some of my traditional ones. We are actually going to do a little mini demo of conscious breathing. So for this one, you want to make sure that you are in a chill space, somewhere you can sit or lie down when you listen to portions of this podcast. But also, I want you to understand that these are small demos, not big ones, but you also want to take responsibility for your own health. If you have any conditions that may keep you from doing breath work, such as COPD, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, things of that nature, you may want to think before you do the breath work with us. You can totally listen to the podcast by all means. But this one, we're going to go into a little bit of breath work. You'll hear from me in terms of what happens during one of the little segments. And then we'll talk all about the feelings I felt and all this cool stuff, because I traditionally have a history of disconnecting from my feelings. And so this short breath work actually connected me in a pretty cool way. So I can't wait to share that with you. Now, I have been on Benedict's website, makesomebreathingspace.com, since this podcast and have been working on my breath work. And I've had some really cool realizations about life, about me, and just, I don't know, I just feel better. And so I know I sound kind of funny and you might be thinking like, oh my gosh, what's she trying to sell us here? It's not about that. My podcast is all about helping you to become your own best coach when it comes to life, your emotions, and everything in general, because we know that the medical system's broken. We got to take responsibility for ourselves. And one of the best and free ways to put ourselves in check, calm anxiety, find what we're trying to release emotionally, all this stuff, and even to come up with great ideas. And this is what I found from breathing. It helps me to get great ideas and think through problems, so problem solve. So anyway, I've blabbed enough. Let's introduce you to Benedict Beaumont. Hey there, health junkies. I have Benedict Beaumont on, and we are going to be talking about breath work today, something that I've struggled with. I full disclose to Benedict before we jumped on that it is something that I've struggled with. And so for me, this is a great podcast because we're going to go through a little trial. You guys are going to see me in action, and we're going to go from there. So Benedict, how did you become a breathwork facilitator? How did you get into this whole gig here?
Oh, thank you, Janine, and I really appreciate you welcoming me onto your podcast. And hi to all your listeners. Before I answer that question, would it be okay if we did something first?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I start every seminar, every interview, every training course, pretty much almost every interaction I have with someone, just by taking a breath together. It helps us connect. It helps us kind of get into that right space. And everyone, no matter if you're a bus driver or a bank manager or a checkout clerk, understands the value of just taking a breath together. If you're listening, please take a few breaths with us. Is that okay if we do that?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
One more. Thank you.
Awesome. I love it. It gives us space, right? Kind of like your website called the Breathing Space. It gives us that space to connect. And I noticed we did 3 magical breaths. Do you subscribe to the power of threes and all of that kind of, I guess you could say I'm in the Chinese medicine background and it's always threes of everything. So what's your take on the power of 3?
I mean, it's a very powerful number. It's a triangle number. I don't do it deliberately, but I recognize the importance of it. And 3 breaths just seems like a good number, a minimum kind of number we need to take. Can you feel how things are different now
Yeah.
that we've taken those breaths together? It does, doesn't it?
Mhm.
And that, you talked at the beginning about, having a breathwork practice. Something as simple as that can be extraordinarily powerful. Just pausing and taking a breath, either by yourself or with someone else, it changes everything. So I think you really are probably doing breathwork all the time, Janine, not even knowing about it.
It's entirely possible. A lot of times I will have patients when we come into the office, we'll sit down and be like, okay, let's take a big breath. And it does feel better. It feels like we just let some stuff kind of go and kind of can be more present, but also just a little more grounded too at the same time.
Yeah. And really one of my philosophies or my teaching approaches is we all inside of us have a teacher and a healer. In fact, we are best our own teachers and healers. And so all we do as facilitators is just make a space where that can come out. And there is a breathwork facilitator in you. There is a breathwork facilitator in you who is listening to this right now. It isn't special. It isn't magical. Sometimes it can be as simple as just actively and consciously and deliberately taking a breath.
Nice.
Well,
Nice.
shall I answer your question? We got a bit
Absolutely.
distracted there.
Tell me how does one become obviously you just said we can all become our own breathwork facilitators. What drew you to it in the first place? What was going on in life? What was happening? And just give us a story, just because some folks might resonate, I'm thinking.
Of course. Well, for me, I had always been a seeker. I'd always wanted to know the answers to life and the questions, and the chosen subjects at university that I studied, was attempting to get that in the paths that I followed in my 20s and 30s. I wanted to make the best of my life. So I did a lot of yoga. I studied Buddhism and meditation. I went to therapy. I read every self-help book on the shelf that I could find, trying to make the best version of myself. And, they all had little seeds. They all had little gems, but nothing really kind of clicked for me. In my professional career, I trained to be a teacher because I really wanted to do something that was, making the world a better place. And I worked at the chalk face, as it's called, for 10 years in what is one of the most demanding professions. But eventually I burnt out, as I'm sure many of your listeners will have experienced. When you give and give and give too much, then sometimes, well, the effects can be really life-changing. And that was the case for me. At the end of my 30s, I was burnt out from my work as a teacher. I'd come to the end of the road with Buddhism and meditation. I'd got everything that I could, and I found some of the it found a bit limiting. Some of their beliefs I no longer resonated with. And so I decided to change everything in my life. I let go. I sold everything. I flew off to India and I got lost. I bought a motorbike and drifted around, and I went on all sorts of adventures. And after India, then I moved on to Asia. Then in France, I became a chef and I worked in ski resorts, cooking for people. I wrote several novels. I trained to be a yoga teacher. All of the times I was, I decided that I was going to, find out what it was that really wanted to happen. And then in 2014, just after I'd proposed to my now wife, actually, I met a man in Ubud in Bali, which, if you have had the great fortune to be, you will know it is one of the great spiritual centers of the earth, where there is a shaman behind every bush. There is a therapist behind every tree. There is a yoga teacher or a witch doctor or guru or everywhere. And I just got into conversation with this man, and I asked him what he did. He says, I'm a breathwork facilitator. And at the time I'd done a lot of breathwork. I'd done breathwork meditations. I'd done yoga. I'd done pranayama. I thought I knew what breathwork was. And he said, well, I'm running a session on Saturday. Why don't you come along as my guest, free, on the house? And like all good drug pushers, the first hit is free, and then you pay for the rest of your life. And I did, because that moment when I went to that breathwork, and it was nothing I'd experienced before. He told us to kind of he taught us this particular breathwork technique. We all lay down. He put on some music. We all started breathing, and then I swear, within 5 breaths, I had got taken to that place that I was always looking for, that place of transcendence, that place of connection that meditation kind of promises and dangles in front of you, that yoga is striving to get towards. And it was easy, and it was gentle, and it was glorious. And I did it within 5 breaths. And all around me, people were getting to similar states, all having very different experiences. So one person on one side of me was screaming like they were being stabbed. Another person was having a full body orgasm. Someone else was laughing like they'd been told the biggest joke in the universe. And I was having a very spiritual experience, as it turned out. And I realized, when everyone was sharing about their experiences, we'd all had radically different experiences, but every single person had been given what they needed during that session. And it was then that I thought, well, not even thought that, I felt this is what I'm supposed to do with my life. Breathwork, I found, didn't replace anything that I learned. It didn't kind of like make redundant all the yoga and the meditation that I had learned, but it integrated everything. It elevated everything, because breath is at the heart of everything that we do.
It's true. It's true. And it's funny you mentioned the different experiences that folks are having, because I think a lot of people have been told, like, oh, I went to this, especially in India, it seems that is where different magical experiences happen. I've never been myself, so I can't say, but I've heard stories where, like, yeah, this one guy was trembling on the one side and the other guy's laughing, and I'm sitting there like, whoa, what's going on? And the thing is that we get what we need in the moment from it. And I think a lot of people are looking like, I must have this experience. And I think this is one of the things I want to dispel, is with breath work, with meditation, with any of these things, we're stuck in our heads that either maybe we saw a movie, maybe we, talked to a friend, like, oh, we're supposed to have this experience. No, not necessarily. We get what we need. So speak a little bit more to that in terms of perhaps subsequent experiences that you've had from breathwork, or even other stories from other folks you've worked with, as to how that kind of plays out.
Of course. Our breath and our bodies are really wise. They know instinctively what they need to do pretty much at any moment to heal or to transform and to grow. But the problem is, in our modern society, we've become so disconnected from our bodies. We live in our heads all the time. We do what we think we need to do. Mostly that's worrying about things, about, our children or our parents, or about money, about what we're doing next, or what we've just done. And so we've become really disconnected from this amazing, piece of machinery that we are gifted with at birth. Now, when we do a breathwork session, we really drop into the wisdom of our bodies, and our bodies know what it needs. Now, when we breathe, especially when we do conscious breath work, which is a particular breathwork technique, by the way, and a particular movement. Breathwork is a whole field, from functional breathing to breathing for wellness to, to emotional release. But, I'm talking about the most powerful type of transformational breathwork, conscious breathwork. Now, when we do that kind of breathwork, not only are we dropping into our bodies, but we are giving our bodies the rocket fuel, because this breathwork fills us with so much energy, or prana, or chi, or however you like to do with it, however you like to call it, and then our bodies do something with that. And because it's very wise, it knows what it needs. Now, that's different for every single person, every single time, because we're not a static being. We're volatile. We're always in movement. We're always changing. Now, when you do a breathwork, there are all sorts of ways that it can benefit you, from physical healing, that physical transformation. So I have had people with, aches or pains or chronic conditions, such as stress, such as sleep, or chronic pain, that have had some breathwork sessions and have, remarked on a dramatic increase in their personal and physical well-being. People who have tried all sorts of different therapies or different kind of regimes to help improve their body. Our breath is one thing that we can all change really quickly, and it can have very profound implications on our health. Like, I'm sure that that changing our acidity in our blood system, through diet is very popular. Our breath can change our pH levels in our blood within one breath, and that's one thing that can happen. But breath work doesn't just work on that physical layer. It can work on all sorts of other layers. So the emotional kind of layer. Breath work is extraordinary for releasing trauma in the body. Now, I'm sure you and many of all your listeners will know, like, trauma is physically stored in our body. Our body is a library of all the dramatic incidents in our life, and sometimes those emotions and that energy gets stuck in our body. It doesn't get released, and this can be the cause of so much physical illness. Breath work, when you've experienced it, is like nothing else that I've experienced for shifting those energies that are stored in us. And unlike, say, therapy or talking therapy, you don't have to understand what is going on. Our body's emotional plumbing system is so clever, it can do it without us being consciously aware of it. So, some relationships or, incidents that have really left their scar in us, and that energy is still present, can start to be shifted with breath work. Breath work does work on even more subtle layers like creativity, like ideas. I have visions when I do breathwork, and I feel like I'm Einstein sometimes. I feel so inspired by breathwork. I see solutions to problems. I see ways forward. I don't feel like that all the time. I don't feel like a genius, but there are times after I've done a breathwork that I feel like a genius. And it can work on that level. Like, breathwork can also work on a spiritual level. Now, it's a non-denominational practice, so it works with any belief system. Because it doesn't have a religion, and you will find actually that breath is at the heart of most religions. From the Quran to the Bible to the Hindu books, breath is mentioned almost everywhere in every holy text. Breath work can also work on other subtle or magical realms as well, if you believe in that, or you want to explore different kind of dimensions. Breathwork can be a portal to so many different areas of your life.
Wow.
Oh, I'm going to take a breath now. Is that okay if we take a breath?
Totally fine. That's totally fine. Do take a breath. I'm just thinking so many different thoughts while you're saying that. I mean, one of the biggest things is the portal to another place, basically another dimension, you could say, something of that nature. I think a lot of people traditionally have thought, oh, breath work connected to yoga. I think that's kind of the most simple thinking. We're starting to get out of that thought process, and a lot of folks who are religious do tend to think, I don't know, is it some kind of religious ceremony breathing thing here? And really, the dimension doesn't matter. It's like you said, it's non-denominational. We're looking at improving ourselves. And one of the things that you mentioned too that I find a lot of us probably struggle with a little bit is, okay, you talk about breath work. And this is something I know you have on your website in Breathing Space. So guys, you have to go over to his website because you can see all of the different options. But I think a lot of people get in the point where they're like, okay, so I've seen the Wim Hof breathing, and I've seen the yoga breathing, and I've seen the this breathing and the fire breathing. What breathing do I choose?
Well, luckily, we are gifted with so many breaths every single hour, every single day. We take thousands of breaths. There isn't one technique that is going to work for everyone all the time. So there are breathworks that can help with stress or anxiety or overwhelm, which is a really common one in our society right now, where we're constantly stimulated and we're hyper activated. Our fight or flight response is constantly there. There are some amazing breathworks for that. There are breathworks to help energize. There are breathworks to help kind of improve your lung capacity, for instance, or if you're recovering from things. So there's not one breathwork fits all. Sure. In any respect. Now, but what I mostly facilitate is conscious breathwork. And you know what? Rather than talk about it, how about we have a little practice?
Okay, let's do it.
Does that sound good?
Yeah. I'm in.
Okay. Well, if you're listening to this, please only do this practice if you're going to be in a safe place for the next 5 minutes. Don't do this if you're driving or juggling with knives or fire breathing or anything like this. Only do this if you're sitting down or lying down and supported, where you'll be undisturbed for about 5 minutes. Normally, I would do this for sort of 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and there is a whole lot of contraindications. Because it is so powerful, including things like schizophrenia, bipolar, history of strokes, heart conditions, extremes of blood pressure. Now, for just a couple of minutes, it's fine. Anyone can do this. But for doing it longer, there would be a whole lot of, a waiver I'd get you to read and understand. But, for the purposes of just a quick demonstration, I want to just give you a taste of how powerful the breath work can be. Does that sound okay?
Sounds
okay,
good.
Well, first, I'm going to demonstrate the technique with you first, and then we will drop in and we will do a short meditation and then the breath work. So I teach conscious breath work, conscious connected breath work in 4 stages. The first is your mouth position. Now, I want you to imagine you're taking a bite from a big apple. Oh, you're going to the dentist. That's it. Now, this is really difficult to keep your mouth open like this, but just be aware. You can give your jaw a little wiggle. Okay, now keep your jaw open and then start taking full body breaths into every part of your body. That's it. Keep breathing into your chest, into your belly. Imagine your legs and your arms are drawing this breath down. That's it. Keep breathing. Now, the third instruction is do not have any pauses at the top or the bottom of your breath. That's it. Now, lastly, pull on the inhale, but let go on the exhale. Pull on the inhale, and then let go on the exhale. Now, let's take 5 practice breaths together. And one last one. All right, close your mouth, close your eyes, and just feel for a minute. Now, even after those 5 breaths, you will start to feel something. You'll probably start to feel a bit of tingling. You'll probably start to feel a bit of lightheaded. You might get a dry throat. If you did this for a long time, you might get something called tetany, where parts of your body lock up. Now, for a 2-minute demonstration, there's nothing to worry about. If you change your breath technique at any point, these sensations will fade. And it's very important that you take responsibility for your own journey. Are you willing to do that?
Yes, absolutely. I'm totally tingling too. Just for everyone who's listening, guys, I'm tingling. All right.
And if you're listening at home, please only do this practice with us if you are able to take responsibility for your own experience and you're in a safe place where you'll be undisturbed. So that's the technique. Can you feel, I mentioned earlier about when we do this technique, we're flooding our bodies with energy, with chi or with prana, that our bodies then do something to do with. Okay, so normally this would be done in a 30-minute session, with music, with people lying down. But we're just going to do a quick version of this just for a couple of minutes. Now, what I'm going to ask you to do is to close your eyes.
Okay.
And just start to breathe in and out through the nose. Not to any particular style, not to any particular rhythm. But just feel how your body moves with your breath, how your chest rises and falls. Your belly expands and contracts. And be aware of the air against your skin and how it enters and leaves your body, cooler on the way in. Now, on an inhale, I want you to take your awareness inside to that still, quiet place within, where your wisest, truest, and highest self resides. What does that place look like? What does it feel like? Feel how strong you are here. Feel how wise you are here. And feel how much love is here. In a moment, I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to listen and feel for the answer rather than think of the answer. What is it that you need to feel that you are not allowing yourself to? What is it that you need to feel that you are not allowing yourself to? Now, when you're ready, let's begin our breath work. Open your mouth wide, really wide. Start taking full body breaths. With no pauses at the top and no pauses at the bottom. Pull on the inhale and then exhale. Feel your breath entering your body. Feel it charging your body. And as you breathe, just feel for a moment. What is it that you are not allowing yourself to feel? As you breathe, go to that place right now. Allow yourself to feel it. Whatever it is welcome. Is it pain? Is it anger? Is it grief? Is it sadness? Is it frustration? Keep breathing. Keep feeling. You don't have to know anything, you just have to feel. We have 30 seconds left, so really breathe and allow yourself to drop into it. That's it. You're doing so well. You're doing so well. 3 more breaths. Now close your mouth. Breathe through your nose and put some pauses in. I'm just going to take a while to gently come back. This is a powerful technique and we mustn't rush things. Now start to come back in a way that is right for you. That might be a bit of movement with your hips and your shoulders. There might be a bit of tapping on your chest. It might even be a big smile or a shake. Well, welcome back, Janine. Thank you for committing to that. And I saw how you did, how you went to somewhere a little bit deep. Would you like to share a little bit about your experience of that very short breath work?
Sure. Like all of a sudden my eyes watered, guys. Like out of nowhere. It's crazy. I don't know if you see it. For real. For real, it happened. I don't know. I got teary. And yeah, when I am one of those people who disconnects. I'm a disconnector. And with breath work, I do kind of feel things, but like when you were asking like what do you feel? All I had was I wanted to feel floaty. I guess I wanted water. This is what was happening. And I'm like, not water to drink, water to like, I want the beach, I think is what's happening. So maybe why I chose the picture behind me. So very interesting that then I got water out my eyes. So yeah, now I feel super airy. So it's interesting. It's interesting that I didn't have word for it other than I wanted water.
Well, we don't have to know. This is the beauty of this practice. It's not a cerebral mental practice. We don't have to know the answers here. Our bodies know what they need. And if your body needed that that release that you get when you're floating in water, where you are totally supported, where you are totally immersed. You allowed yourself to go to that place. That's what you needed right now, to feel that security and that freedom, to be weightless. That's a really powerful experience that you shared. Thank you.
And weightless, that, saying that makes me think a little bit more about, I would like to not have weight of what I put on myself. Definitely has a lot to do with that. So feeling weightless. I have to roll with that a little bit.
And of course, we could go a lot deeper, when we start to inquire about what things mean. And, when we can bring our intentionality and our consciousness, of course, to our breathwork, and that might help unlock something as well. So it's a really valuable avenue of exploration. What is it that water means to me? What does it mean to be weightless, or to take some of the weights off our shoulders? How would it feel if we allowed ourselves to do that? More importantly, if we allowed ourselves to do it, would we then be giving permission for other people to do the same?
Absolutely. Deep stuff here. I love it. So we already got 2 breathworks in a short amount of time here, and a lot of info in terms of where we could go with the breathwork. Now, Benedict, if someone's like, okay, this is pretty cool, I'm not 100% sure what I feel about it all, where would you advise someone to first take their toe and dip it in, kind of like what we did first off, the first couple breaths, or do you have something specific on your website where folks would go to kind of figure out, where can I just start tiptoeing in?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. And I really encourage you more than anything to find a way that works for you, and specifically to find a teacher that works with you. Great if it's with me, and come to our website and have a look around there. But it might be with someone else that you resonate a bit better. There are some amazing breathwork heroes out there. Wim Hof, by the way, is a huge champion. James Nestor,
Yes,
his book, Just Breathe, is astonishing. But the things that I offer are, quite a lot. There are 3 weekly sessions that we offer, hour-long workshops that anyone can drop in wherever you are in the world. These are all online on Zoom. We have 5 different breathworks every single week. So whichever time zone you are in, whatever your work and family life schedule, there will be a live session that you can make. We also have a free introductory breathwork course with 5 of my favorite breathwork techniques in there. It takes about an hour to kind of learn all the techniques. And this is the thing about breathwork. It's essentially really simple. It's essentially free. It's accessible to every single person, whatever your, income is, wherever you live, and whatever your lifestyle is like. Breathwork is something that we all can do, that can all make a difference in our lives. Now, if you want to go a bit deeper with breathwork, well, I have a membership site, the Breathing Space Explorers Club, which is normally $10 a month. But guess what? Your audience, Janine, get the first month absolutely free. There's a little tryout. There'll be a code that I'll share with you. And of course, you can cancel at any time. Come in and explore our library. Come and try one of our breathwork workshops, or one of our longer workshops that you can join in. And then you have access to our community as well. If you really want to go on a journey, if you really want to explore not just how the breathwork can transform your own life, but how it can transform other people, then we offer facilitator training. And that is a big commitment. It's a year-long training, but it is life-changing, not just for you, but for almost every single person you will come into contact. They will feel different when they are with you.
Yeah. No, your presence and most folks who do breath work as their, it's a huge practice form. The presence that you guys have, that you hold space for, you're just so much more calming than as folks like me who come in like a bull in a china shop, because that is my personality. I'm hyper. I am a bull in a china shop. And it's definitely something that I think goes a very long way for folks. If you're listening to this, having that ability to hold space for others, if you're even for your family, I think being a facilitator for your family could be a really important thing. And let's face it, I don't know how you feel about this, Benedict, but I do notice that a lot of our issues in health and being able to get over a chronic illness, you had mentioned pain, things of that nature, it almost seems like a lot of it really does have a root in our breath and in our own healing capacities that we can unlock ourselves versus searching for pills, supplements, herbs, the next guru, etc.
Absolutely. There is so much, wisdom and strength and courage in our bodies. If we can learn how to access that, if we can learn how to do that, I really agree. I'm not in the business of offering miracle cures or peddling some kind of cure. That's that's not what we do. But there is the possibility, to have such an intimate and strong relationship with our breath and with our bodies that extraordinary things can happen.
Mm-hmm. Well, like you mentioned on your website, and I talked about it when we first started chatting, you guys, he has this a sentence on the website that says you have a whole world inside of you waiting to be explored. And I truly believe that we have cut ourselves off from ourselves. Yes, maybe because of fear. Yes, maybe because of what we might find in there. But at the same time, we have so much more potential than we're unleashing or unlocking. Maybe that's a better word at this point. And I'm sure, Benedict, in all of the folks you've worked with, you've seen some pretty amazing epiphanies, awakenings, things of that nature.
Absolutely. Just from my own experience, I have, wow, I'm, so some extraordinary things that have happened. But I'll talk. Is it okay just to share a little bit of my story?
Absolutely.
So when I first discovered breath work, I was a high school teacher. I was currently a supply teacher, we call them, or a substitute teacher. I go around and visit different classrooms. I'd never really done very much in my life. When I started training to be a breathwork facilitator, everything started to change. It was like I went on a process of rewiring myself, and I started to kind of operate at a higher level. And then over the next, 3 years, I completed my training sort of 5 years ago. And in that 5 years, an astonishing amount of things have happened. First of all, I started running retreats all over the world. And within a year, I'd run 30 retreats. I'd been featured in national newspapers for things that I'd done. I'd never expected. I didn't know what I was doing. I just made it up. Then I started my school, and suddenly I was training people from all around the world in how to become a facilitator. I then started a festival, and I don't know how it happens, but we're just started planning our fourth festival now, which is, and it's called the Inspiration Festival. It's to inspire people around breathwork. I don't know how that happened, but I'll tell you this, it was easy and it was fun. And, it all just seemed to make sense. And I credit that with really having an intimate relationship with my breath. I've seen it in myself, but I've also seen all of the people that I've trained with start to light up as well and start to do things that they had not thought was possible. It is something that can happen to you and happen for you.
Mm-hmm. I believe it. I believe it. I even feel lighter right now. I know that every time I do breath work, it does help me. Now it's just a matter of kicking myself in the full gear. And honestly, looking at what you have for your membership, it's really accessible, guys. And it's something that in my mind, I'm like, there's no excuse to wait for the next, email someone's going to bring out for the next, breath work amazing session. You have it all right there on demand. So Benedict, thank you for coming on, and thank you for sharing breathwork with us today, and definitely getting me to open up a little bit more. I'm sure folks who are watching this on the actual visual part of it will be entertained, and those of you guys who are listening, it was quite an experience. I'll definitely have to share. MakeSomeBreathingSpace.com, you guys. I'll put it in the show notes, of course, at drjkrausnd.com. Benedict, thanks again. I sincerely appreciate it.
Thank you so much for inviting me on it. The breathwork is my passion, and I love coming on to share it. Perhaps we could end as we started, just by taking a few breaths together.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, fellow health junkie, thanks for listening to the Health Fix podcast. If you enjoyed tuning in, Please help support me to get the word out about the podcast. Subscribe, rate, and review, and just get that word out. Thanks again for listening.